My child, you've been feeling it, haven't you? That strange tension in the air, that tightening in your chest you can't quite explain. It's like standing in the middle of a field just before the thunder rolls, when the wind holds its breath and the sky forgets how to blink. Everything is still, but not peacefully still. No. It's the kind of stillness that hums with possibility. Your bones are buzzing, your thoughts race without a finish line, and the silence around you feels pregnant with something. Something you can't quite name. Something big, and you're right. But before we go further, before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. And don't forget to comment your location and what time it is where you are. Now, dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. You're in a waiting room, spiritually speaking. There are no magazines to flip through, no gentle music playing overhead, and no indication how long you'll be here. Just you and the divine pause. God has you in this strange holding pattern, not because you've done something wrong, but because the next thing coming your way is so massive, so disruptive to your current comfort zone, that you can't rush it. Imagine trying to force open a chrysalis before the butterfly's ready. You'd ruin the wings before they've had time to stretch. That's what premature success looks like, and that's what he's saving you from. This moment you're in, this holy hush, it's not empty, it's whispering. If you listen closely, you'll hear God's breath behind the scenes, rearranging timelines, removing things that would distract you, and placing pieces of your future into perfect sequence. You think he's being quiet because he's ignoring you, but sometimes silence is the sound of orchestration. Think of a theater. Before the curtain rises, everything backstage is chaos, but beautiful, synchronized chaos. God's message for you, right now, is this. I know you're tired of waiting, but I am not slow. I'm strategic. The mainstream God message here is one you've probably heard, but never felt quite like this. Be still and know that I am God, not just still in body, but in soul, in expectation, in frantic mental Googling of, why is God making me wait? There's purpose in this moment. You're not stuck, you're staged. And while we're in this sacred stillness, let's drop in a quirky tidbit that might surprise you. The ancient Essenes, those fringe mystics who lived quietly in desert communities, believed that God never speaks loudly. They trained themselves to hear him in the rustle of leaves, the flicker of candlelight, the beating of their own pulse. You too are being invited into that quiet knowing. The shift isn't loud. It's subtle, but seismic. Now, some scholars argue whether waiting is an act of faith or an act of fear. They debate. Is it submission or avoidance? But here's what your spirit already knows. Waiting on God is neither passive nor cowardly. It is the boldest thing you can do in a culture obsessed with instant results. You're not being left behind. You're being held back because you're about to leap farther than you ever have. You don't have to do anything dramatic to usher this shift in. In fact, trying too hard might delay it. Instead, sit with it. Light a candle tonight. Journal like your fingers are channeling heaven's language. Walk slowly. Eat something warm. Let the wind touch your skin. This, right now, is sacred space. Because what's coming next is not a gentle ripple. It's a tidal wave. It's a realignment so deep, it will make your past confusion look laughable. It will make sense of every no you ever cried over. And you'll remember this waiting room with the kind of tenderness only hindsight can provide. You'll say, that's why nothing was moving, because everything was shifting. So when you feel tempted to scream into the silence, when your prayers feel like paper airplanes crashing at your feet, remember, The author is writing a plot twist. You're not stuck. You're just on the page before everything changes. You wake up again with that same feeling. You're not sure if it's dread or anticipation anymore. You move through the morning routine like it's choreography you didn't sign up to perform again. And deep down, you wonder, if something big is about to happen in your life, then why does it feel like nothing is happening at all? Here's the truth that burns quietly behind the scenes. Delay is not denial. That phrase might sound like a Pinterest quote your aunt would post. But tonight, I need you to feel its weight in your chest. Because God isn't saying no to your prayers. He's just saying, not yet. And that's a very different thing. You're not forgotten. You're being timed. Divine timing is not designed for convenience. It's disruptive. It confuses the modern mind because it won't follow your calendar, your clock, or your 5-year plan. It comes when you've let go of your attachment to outcome. And sometimes, it waits until the very moment you've accepted that it might never happen at all. That's when the shift shows up like a quiet guest at the back of the room, asking if you still remember how to dream. You keep asking for the breakthrough, but here's what you're not seeing yet. The delay is preparing your soul to carry what you're about to receive. If God gave you everything you asked for right now in your current mindset, you'd fumble it. You'd self-sabotage. You'd turn the blessing into a burden. But He loves you too much to let that happen. So instead, He stretches time like a rubber band, pulling it tighter and tighter until the snap, that sudden change, launches you forward. Here's the mainstream God message, plain and simple. Though the vision tarries, wait for it. It will surely come. Not maybe, surely. You're not crazy for believing it. You're just early. And that hurts sometimes, doesn't it? Being early means standing at the door while others walk past you, unaware that you're waiting for something holy. It means smiling through unanswered prayers, clenching hope in your jaw like a secret. Let's be real. Most people give up right before the moment breaks open. That's not because they're weak. It's because the silence feels like rejection. And we humans, we don't handle rejection well, especially when it's from heaven. But here's your fringe tidbit for this section. In ancient Hebrew culture, the word for wait isn't passive, it's kava, which literally means to twist or bind together like cords being stretched. Waiting was seen as tension, pressure, yes, but intertwining with God's will. Waiting wasn't dead space, it was union. Now let's dip into a bit of scholarly debate. Theologians have long argued whether divine delay is due to human unreadiness or God's sovereignty. Are you not ready? Or is He working out timing beyond your understanding? Here's where I land. Maybe it's both. Maybe God is sovereign and He's waiting for you to drop that one toxic habit, to leave that one energy-draining friendship, to finally speak kindly to yourself. You think the wait is about Him, but maybe it's about you catching up to what He's already arranged. Let me paint it like this. You're waiting at a train station, but what you don't realize is that the tracks are still being laid. The journey you're about to take hasn't even been built yet. And so, He slows you down, not to frustrate you, but to synchronize you with the miraculous alignment ahead. It's not a no, it's a not yet wrapped in divine engineering. Now, I want you to pause for a second and remember the last time something didn't work out the way you wanted, and later you whispered, "Thank God." You dodged a bullet, didn't you? Well, imagine how many silent bullets He's helped you dodge that you'll never know about. This delay might be the best yes you've never received. So tonight, instead of panicking in the pause, light a metaphorical candle in your soul. Turn waiting into worship. Let every slow breath you take say, I trust you even when I don't understand you. Because the most dangerous lie the enemy whispers during delay is, you've been forgotten. And tonight, God wants to crush that lie like dust under your feet. You haven't been forgotten. You've been preserved. Because what's coming next? It's too big to be early and too sacred to be rushed. You've probably slammed a few doors lately, some with your hands, most with your heart. You prayed, acted, applied, asked, knocked. Nothing opened. And now you're looking at the shut doors around you like they're proof that you're being punished. But slow down, my child. What if God's message to you tonight is this? That closed door wasn't a rejection. It was protection. You have no idea what was waiting behind some of the things you desperately wanted. That job you didn't get? It might have drained your soul. That relationship you begged to keep? It might have buried your purpose. That opportunity you cried over losing? It may have looked like gold, but inside, it was rusting. God's vision sees further than your desire. And sometimes, He slams a door with a force that shocks you, not because He's angry, but because He's shielding you from a fire you never saw coming. It's funny how we rarely thank God for the prayers He doesn't answer. We get so tangled up in the timeline, in the romantic version of how we thought it would go, that we forget He's under no obligation to bless our illusions. He's not here to give you what you want. He's here to shape you into who you are. And that often means stripping away everything that distracts you from Him. Now here's a quirky tidbit. The early Christians used to knock 3 times before entering sacred spaces, not just as a courtesy, but as a way to ask, is this truly where I'm meant to be? What if you started doing that with your life? What if before you stepped into anything, job, relationship, project, you paused and asked, God, is this door mine, or am I just desperate to get out of the hallway? And let's pull in the scholarly whisper. Theologians argue over how much God intervenes in our choices. Is every closed door truly divine, or is it human error, bad timing? But the mystery, the sacred paradox, is that even your mistakes can be woven into the fabric of His protection plan. You might have walked toward the wrong door, but He made sure it didn't open. It's like being on a divine road trip. You've got your playlist, your snacks, your perfect GPS route planned, and then suddenly, God throws up a detour sign. Annoying, right? But later, you find out there was a wreck on your original route. You were spared, not stalled. That's what tonight's about. Recognizing that the delays, the reroutes, the no's, they're not cosmic pranks. They're shields. And you don't need to see what you were protected from to trust that the protection was real. Maybe the reason you feel disoriented is because you're still mourning a door that wasn't meant for you. That's okay. Mourn it. Cry. But don't chase it, because what's ahead of you is bigger than what's behind you. That locked door didn't rob you. It redirected you. Here's the mainstream God message, softened with spiritual gravity. No weapon formed against you shall prosper. That includes emotional weapons. That includes doors that tried to trick you into believing they were blessings. That includes your own impatience, which often works against you harder than your enemies do. Tonight, instead of rattling the doorknob, I want you to walk away from it with dignity. That thing you begged to work out. If God removed it, trust that He replaced it with something you haven't even imagined yet. His no is often the prelude to a breathtaking yes. So stop asking why it didn't open. Start asking what He's opening instead. You're holding it together, but just barely. Lately, life feels like a Jenga tower stacked too high. One more shaky block and the whole thing might collapse. Your mind races. Your body aches. Your heart sighs with a kind of exhaustion that sleep can't fix. And still you whisper, God, where are you? My child, I need you to hear this clearly tonight. Before something big happens, everything often breaks down first. This is not a sign of failure. It's the sacred unraveling before divine reconstruction. Think of it like spiritual demolition. Before a new structure rises, the old one must be cleared away. That's why so much is falling apart right now. Relationships are changing. Habits are crumbling. Beliefs you've held tightly for years are starting to feel flimsy. And no one talks about this part. How painful it is to let go of what once made you feel safe. But God isn't punishing you. He's making space. He can't pour new wine into old wineskins, remember? That metaphor wasn't just poetic, it was prophetic. You can't carry the next version of your life while still clinging to this one. And yes, the in-between hurts. But the breakdown isn't the end of the story. It's the tension in the plot before the reveal. Let's talk about a quirky fact to brighten this rubble-strewn chapter. In 17th century Japan, there was a philosophy called kintsugi, the art of repairing broken pottery with gold. They believed the cracks made the object more beautiful, not less. That's how God sees your breakdown. He doesn't throw away what's cracked. He fills it with glory. Now here's the scholarly tension. Some argue that God allows suffering only for the sake of strengthening. Others say suffering is just part of a fallen world, and God redeems it afterward. But let's be honest. When your life is in pieces, academic theories don't help much. What helps is this truth. God is near to the brokenhearted, not far away, not watching from a distance, near, close enough to catch every fragment as it falls. So if it feels like your world is crumbling, maybe it's because something divine is being unearthed underneath the rubble. What if this isn't destruction? What if it's excavation? What if the ruins around you are actually the walls falling away from the thing you're meant to see? Maybe you're not losing everything. Maybe you're finally being shown what truly matters. Maybe the things breaking down around you were never built on a solid foundation to begin with. Maybe God is letting the false comfort collapse so He can rebuild you on truth, not illusion. There's something sacred about rock bottom. It's where idols are exposed. It's where ego dies. It's where you stop bargaining and start listening. So don't rush to escape this breakdown. Sit with it. Listen. There's wisdom in the cracks. There's revelation in the rubble. And listen, this part is hard. You might lose people who once felt permanent. You might have to walk away from things you built your identity around. But if God is allowing it to break, trust that it's because He's about to build something better. Not just prettier, stronger, deeper, aligned. So tonight, don't curse the collapse. Thank God for it. Because this breakdown, it's not the end. It's the clearing before the arrival. And what's coming will fit so perfectly that you'll look back at this chaos and say, thank you for wrecking what wasn't right. You're not being punished. You're being prepared. Your bones ache, but not from lifting. Your heart is tired, but not from loving. It's a different kind of exhaustion. The kind that wraps itself around your spirit like a fog you can't shake. You've been strong for too long, smiling when it wasn't real, showing up when you had nothing left. And now you're wondering, why does this growth feel so much like grief? My child, that heaviness you're carrying isn't a sign you're failing. It's a sign that you're evolving. Because what you're feeling are the growing pains of your spirit, stretching into something bigger than you've ever known. People don't talk enough about how much it hurts to become who you were meant to be. You think spiritual growth is supposed to feel peaceful, serene, like meditating on a mountain with birdsong and herbal tea. But the truth is, growth often feels like pressure, confusion, and loss. It's spiritual labor. And just like childbirth, it's messy, painful, and necessary for something miraculous to be born. That fatigue, that's your soul dilating. Tonight's God message might surprise you with its bluntness. Before I elevate you, I have to empty you. And you hate it because empty feels vulnerable. But you can't be filled if you're already overflowing with distractions, insecurities, and fake versions of yourself. He's draining you, not to break you, but to make room for the next level of purpose. You might be tempted to interpret this tiredness as weakness, or laziness, or defeat. But consider this fringe fact. In many ancient cultures, rest was seen not as inactivity, but as sacred obedience. The Israelites had the Sabbath not just as a law, but as a gift, a divine invitation to pause and realign. And if God Himself rested on the seventh day, what makes you think you're above that sacred rhythm? Let's bring in some scholarly nuance. Theologians have wrestled for centuries with the paradox of suffering and sanctification. Some believe that God uses discomfort to refine us like fire refines gold. Others argue that pain is simply a byproduct of transformation, not its tool. But here's what matters tonight. You're not tired because you're lost. You're tired because your spirit is shedding an old skin. Remember the caterpillar? It literally digests itself inside the chrysalis. It dissolves before it transforms. And maybe that's what's happening to you. You feel like you're falling apart, but you're actually coming together in a new form. The dreams you had 5 years ago, they're too small for who you're becoming. The prayers you used to whisper, they no longer fit your current level of consciousness. God is stretching your capacity to receive, but stretching hurts. Ask anyone who's ever grown too fast. Skin stretches, muscles ache, joints scream. But the end result? Height, strength, reach. So instead of asking, why am I so tired? Ask, what is God stretching in me? Because this pain, it's not random. It's the echo of expansion. You're making room for something bigger. And that's not just poetic fluff. That's prophetic reality. Tonight, give yourself permission to rest. Not because you've earned it, but because it's necessary. Because your next breakthrough isn't going to be powered by hustle. It's going to be powered by alignment. And alignment only comes when your soul has space to breathe. This tiredness isn't a curse. It's an invitation. A whisper that says, come away with me and let me refill you. Don't fight it. Don't mask it with more busyness. Let the fatigue teach you. Let it pull you inward into the quiet place where God rewires your capacity and refuels your purpose. And when you rise again, and you will, you'll realize that this exhaustion was not a wall. It was a womb. You've lost things recently. People, roles, comforts you swore you couldn't live without. And each loss felt like a theft, like something was being ripped from your hands without warning. But what if tonight, God is leaning in to whisper this truth? I remove to replace. That aching space in your life, it's not a void, it's a vacancy. And vacancies, my child, are invitations for something greater to move in. You see, we often cling to what's familiar, not because it fulfills us, but because it's predictable. We hold on to expired relationships, dead-end jobs, toxic habits, because they've been with us so long, they've started to feel like home. But God doesn't call you to familiar. He calls you to freedom. And sometimes, freedom requires subtraction before multiplication. It hurts. Of course it does. Losing what once felt like part of your identity is a kind of soul surgery. But what if every removal in your life was actually a divine setup for replacement? What if that friend who ghosted you made space for someone who'll speak life into your calling? What if that opportunity you didn't get was blocking the one that's about to explode your purpose wide open? The mainstream God message here is as old as the book of Job, but still stings fresh tonight. The Lord gives and the Lord takes away. Blessed be the name of the Lord. That verse used to feel like a resignation, didn't it? But now, maybe you can hear the trust humming underneath it. God takes away, but He never leaves you empty. The replacement might not look the way you expect. It might come in a quieter package. It might show up later than you hoped. But it's coming. Now here's your quirky historical tidbit for the night. In medieval monasteries, monks were known to sweep the floors in silence every morning, not because they were dirty, but because they believed God could only dwell in spaces that were intentionally emptied first. Imagine if you treated your life like that floor. What if you let God sweep it clean so that what enters next is worthy of the new version of you? Of course, this idea raises theological questions. Scholars have long debated the difference between divine pruning and personal failure. Is God really removing things, or are we just making bad choices and calling it holy? Here's the nuance. Sometimes it's both. Sometimes your mistake becomes His material. Sometimes your letting go becomes His launching pad. Either way, the truth remains. God is in the business of divine replacement. But here's the catch. He won't force the new thing into hands still clutching the old. You have to release first. And releasing is rarely peaceful. It often feels like grief in disguise. But grief, when honored, becomes fertile soil. It softens your heart, prepares your spirit, and clears your vision. You might not see the replacement yet. You might still be staring at the loss, asking, why? But here's what I know. God never removes without reason. And when He replaces, it's never a downgrade. It's always an upgrade disguised as a mystery. So tonight, I want you to imagine that every empty place in your life is being prepared. That relationship that ended, space for deeper love. That season that dried up, soil for a richer harvest. That plan that fell apart, canvas for a better blueprint. Let God rearrange the furniture of your life. Let Him throw out what's broken, donate what's outdated, and make room for what you didn't even know you needed. Because what's about to enter your life isn't just better, it's aligned. And alignment, my child, is worth every loss. You saw it, didn't you? That moment, that strange flicker in time when something lined up just a little too perfectly. Maybe it was a song that played right when you needed the words, or a stranger's passing comment that felt eerily specific to your private struggle. Or perhaps it was a delay that annoyed you until you found out it protected you. My child, that wasn't random. That wasn't coincidence. That was a signal. And tonight, God's message is simple. You almost missed the sign, but I made sure it caught you anyway. We ask for signs, and then, when they come, we dismiss them. We call them luck, or irony, or just weird. But heaven doesn't traffic in luck. Heaven operates in patterns, in precision, in divine nudges so subtle they whisper past your logic and land in your soul. God is always speaking. The question isn't whether He's talking, it's whether you're tuned in. You want a burning bush, but He's been whispering through the rustling leaves for weeks. You want a dream with angels and thunder, but He's been sending alignment through the mundane. And let's be honest, you've felt it. That sacred discomfort, that irrational peace in the middle of chaos. That moment where your spirit knew something your mind hadn't caught up to yet. The mainstream God message for tonight comes straight from the prophet Isaiah. Whether you turn to the right or to the left, your ears will hear a voice behind you saying, "This is the way, walk in it." That voice, it's still speaking. But in a world full of noise, it gets drowned out. So God sometimes sends signs you can't ignore. The delayed text, the gut feeling. the red flag that finally waves loud enough to stop you in your tracks. Let's go a little fringe for a second. Did you know that early Celtic Christians believed in something called thin places? These were physical spaces, fields, cliffs, forests, where they said heaven and earth felt unusually close. But what if thin places aren't just geographic? What if they're moments, split seconds when the veil between you and the divine grows thin enough for something sacred to slip through? Maybe that moment you almost shrugged off earlier today was a thin place. That line in the book you just started. That silence that suddenly felt full. That coincidence that shook you a little. You were seen. You were nudged. And even though you almost missed it, God circled back to make sure it landed. Here's where the scholars chime in. Some argue that looking for signs borders on superstition, that we should walk by faith, not by hints. But I'd argue it's not about needing signs. It's about recognizing when God chooses to send them anyway. Because He's a communicator, a relational God, a storyteller. And stories always have breadcrumbs. And listen, not every strange thing is a sign. Sometimes life is just life. But when something moves you without explanation, when you feel your spirit stand at attention for no logical reason, pay attention, because God doesn't always knock loudly. Sometimes He sends a gentle tap just to say, "You're still on track." Tonight, reflect back. What have you almost missed lately? What odd thing keeps repeating? What memory keeps resurfacing? What name shows up again and again in unexpected places? These aren't just glitches. They might be God's way of guiding you gently, saying, "This way, child, not that." Because you're not lost. You're just in a dense part of the forest, and He's leaving you signs, not because you're incapable, but because you're loved, because something big is coming, and He doesn't want you to sleep through the setup. You didn't miss the sign. You're just now learning how to read it. You've been holding on. Barely maybe, but still holding. You've shown up on days you wanted to disappear. You've stayed kind when bitterness knocked. You've trusted when logic told you to run. And yet, nothing. Silence. Stillness. That eerie emotional hush that settles over your spirit like fog rolling across a valley. And in that silence, a question keeps echoing in your soul. Is this a test? Yes, it is. But not the kind you think. This isn't about pass or fail. This isn't heaven trying to trap you. No, my child, this is the final check before the turning point. And God's message for you tonight is this: I test before I elevate. You're on the cusp of something that will change everything. But before the door swings wide open, He needs to know, can you handle it? Not just the blessing, but the weight of it. Because real elevation isn't shiny, it's heavy. Favor will require more of you. Influence will expose more of you. And before He hands you the platform, He'll test your posture. This is why you're feeling stretched in every direction. Why your usual coping mechanisms don't work anymore. Why people who used to soothe your pain now only agitate your spirit. You're being refined, not punished. Shaken, not shattered. Because He's preparing to trust you with something sacred. Let's anchor this with a mainstream God message. Those who are faithful with little will be trusted with much. That little season you're in right now, it's not small to heaven, it's training. Every decision you make in secret, every time you choose integrity when no one is watching, every time you show grace when you could seek revenge, these are the choices that unlock favor. Here's your quirky spiritual tidbit for the night. In ancient Jewish wedding tradition, before the bride and groom were officially united, there was a period called Kiddushin. a time of betrothal where they were considered bound, but not yet living together. During that period, the groom would prepare a place for the bride, and the bride would prepare herself in purity. Sound familiar? It's echoed in Scripture, where Jesus says, "I go to prepare a place for you." But here's the catch. The bride never knew exactly when the groom would come. She just had to stay ready. That's what this test is. Readiness. You don't know the exact moment when your breakthrough will arrive, but God does. And He's watching how you steward this in-between space, not to judge you, but to align you. Now, scholars debate whether God tests us for His benefit, to see what we'll do, or for ours, to show us what we're made of. The answer, I think, is both. Testing reveals things hidden. It surfaces both your strength and your shadows. And in that revelation, God doesn't condemn you. He shapes you. So the next time you feel like you're being squeezed, stretched, or stripped, remind yourself, you're not being disqualified. You're being defined. This is the forge before the fire becomes light. This is the tension before the release, the silence before the song. And I know it's uncomfortable, but discomfort is the holy signpost that transformation is near. So tonight, instead of resisting it, lean in. Ask yourself, who am I becoming through this pressure? What parts of me are being burned away? And what's being revealed beneath the ash? Because the test isn't to break you, it's to unveil you, the version of you that's ready to carry the blessing, the strength you'll need for the next level, the discernment you'll need for what's coming next. You're not stuck. You're being assessed by heaven, and not to be rejected, but to be released. So hold steady, because once the testing is done, the door doesn't creak. It swings. Now listen carefully, because this is the part where most people miss it. The moment just before everything changes rarely feels like a moment of glory. It feels like pressure, fatigue, confusion, and often hopelessness. But that's exactly when heaven begins to stir the winds of breakthrough. Right when you feel most defeated is often when you're the closest to victory. That's not a motivational quote. It's a divine principle. The enemy fights hardest right before the gates open, and God, in His wisdom, allows it, not to destroy you, but to prove you. You've made it through storms that should have taken you out. You've endured silence that should have made you give up. And now, child, the door is about to swing open, but here's the message God needs you to understand. Are you ready to walk through it? Because open doors require open hearts, and too many people pray for opportunity while clinging to old chains. So let me ask you, are you ready to let go of the version of you that wasn't built for what's coming? Because what you're stepping into will not tolerate bitterness, small thinking, or self-sabotage. This next season is sacred ground, and sacred ground doesn't allow old baggage. God will not give you something meant to liberate you, only to watch you be imprisoned by it. Picture it. A door, wooden, weathered. It's been shut so long, the hinges barely remember how to move. You've knocked. You've waited. You've even doubted if it was the right door at all. But something is different now. There's a vibration on the other side, a sound, a shift. You feel it in your bones before you see it in your reality. And then, click. The bolt slides, slowly, deliberately, and suddenly, that which was sealed is swinging wide. Not because you forced it open, but because you grew into the person who no longer needed to push. You see, God's doors aren't opened by pressure. They're opened by presence. He responds not to your striving, but to your surrender. When you stop begging and start trusting, when you stop demanding and start aligning, that's when heaven moves. Now, this isn't just poetic metaphor. It's practical truth. What does walking through the door look like in real life? It means stepping into conversations you once avoided, applying for things you felt unqualified for, ending relationships that block your calling, saying yes to the thing that scares you and no to the thing that numbs you. Because open doors don't guarantee transformation. Only your decision to walk through them does. And don't be surprised if the door doesn't look like you expected. Sometimes it's dressed as a challenge, an inconvenience, even a loss. But that's how God works. He wraps promotion in process, and if you only chase comfort, you'll miss the invitation. Let's go deeper. There's an old Hebrew phrase, hineni. It means, here I am. Not, I'm perfect. Not, I'm ready. Just, I'm available. That's the posture God's looking for as He opens this next door. Not someone flawless, but someone faithful. So tonight, wherever you are, whisper this from your soul. Hineni, Lord, here I am. Not with all the answers, but with a heart willing to move. Not with total confidence, but with unshakable trust. Because the doors opening now don't just lead to opportunities. They lead to purpose, to healing, to alignment. And what's coming isn't just an upgrade. It's a fulfillment. The kind of divine collision where everything suddenly makes sense. The pain, the waiting, the loss. It all led here. And soon you'll look back and realize you weren't waiting for the door. The door was waiting for you. So walk boldly, not because of what you see, but because of what He said. If God says the door is opening, then it is. Period. Let that be your anchor, not your bank account, not your relationship status, not your feelings, but His word. Because, child, it's time. The door isn't creaking anymore. It's swinging, wide, open. So now that the door is open, what happens next? This is the moment most people don't prepare for. We pray and fast and weep for the breakthrough. But once it arrives, we stand there stunned, unsure if we're worthy of walking through it. And this is where the real test begins. Because open doors demand open faith. It's not enough to witness the miracle. You have to move with it. And moving means leaving some things behind. Not just the bad, but even the good that no longer fits your calling. It means walking away from comfort, stepping into risk, and carrying the responsibility that comes with answered prayer. Because while blessings feel like gifts, they also function as assignments. And child, God doesn't give casually. He gives strategically. You've been entrusted with something holy, a vision, a calling, a position, a relationship, a platform, a path. Whatever it is, it didn't show up randomly. It's been designed for this version of you. The one forged in the fire, the one refined by rejection, the one tempered by time. And now that you've matured through the waiting season, you're finally ready to carry what you couldn't have handled before. This is why it took so long. Because what God gives, He wants to remain. He's not interested in short-term miracles that collapse under pressure. He wants to establish something in you that lasts. So here's the truth you need to carry into this next chapter. Do not shrink just because the door opened wide. Do not question your worth simply because the blessing feels bigger than your background. That's the point. God is in the business of choosing the unlikely, the underqualified, the broken, the flawed, so that when you succeed, everyone knows it wasn't you, it was Him. That's how glory works. You don't take credit for the outcome. You become a vessel for it. And now that you've stepped through that door, prepare yourself, not for ease, but for elevation, because new levels will always bring new lessons. Don't be surprised if discomfort follows the breakthrough. That doesn't mean you made a mistake. That means you've entered the realm of growth. And growth, child, is uncomfortable by design. Think of Joseph. One day he was in a prison. The next, he was in a palace. But even the palace had its own pressures, new responsibilities, new betrayals, new decisions. But Joseph didn't shrink. He remembered who put him there, and so must you. Because confidence in your calling isn't arrogance, it's alignment. And when you align with God's plan, you don't just survive, you thrive. Let's talk about the people around you. Because when you walk through that door, not everyone will clap. Some will be confused. Some will be jealous. Some will try to pull you back into the version of yourself that made them comfortable. But hear me, you do not owe your past an explanation for your future. You don't need to apologize for elevation. God promoted you, not to distance you from others, but to draw you closer to Him. This is also the season where discernment becomes crucial. Every opportunity isn't from God. Some doors open as distractions. That's why prayer isn't just a prelude to decision. It's protection from deception. Before you say yes to anything, ask, does this align with my assignment? If it drains your peace, diminishes your integrity, or distracts your focus, it's not for you. Walk away boldly, and remember, child, what got you through the waiting is what will keep you in the blessing. Stay humble, stay prayerful, stay surrendered. The posture that opened the door is the same one that will allow you to flourish inside it. This isn't the time to coast. It's the time to cultivate, to nurture the gift, to sharpen your tools, to build upon the foundation, because this door is not the end. It's the beginning of something much bigger than you can imagine. What you do next doesn't just impact your life, it touches the lives of those connected to your obedience. Your yes to God today may be the miracle someone else is praying for tomorrow. So take a deep breath. Look around. You made it. You're not dreaming. The door didn't open by mistake, and you didn't arrive by accident. Heaven is smiling. Destiny is waiting. God is watching. Now go. Walk in it. Boldly. Gratefully. Unapologetically. This is your moment. And it's not just about what's on the other side of the door. It's about who you've become on the way to it. Because this is the life you were born to live. The door is open, and so are the heavens. Welcome to your breakthrough. Let me tell you something that very few people will say out loud, but every soul eventually learns. Breakthrough doesn't silence the enemy. It attracts new ones. You see, when you were in the valley, your warfare was survival. But now that you've stepped into purpose, your warfare becomes distraction. The enemy couldn't stop the door from opening, so now he'll try to pull your attention away from what's behind it. He'll send noise. He'll stir conflict. He'll trigger insecurities. Why? Because if he can't shut the door, he'll try to make you walk back out of it. Don't fall for it. You didn't come this far to retreat. You came to reign. This is the season to protect your peace, like it's a sacred calling, because it is. Don't argue with people who haven't walked your path. Don't explain your journey to those who were never meant to understand it. Some folks only want access to your life so they can feed their ego, not your vision. Set boundaries. Speak kindly but firmly. And let your actions, not your announcements, declare what God is doing in you. Because trust me, when He moves, you won't need to convince anyone. The fruit will speak. Now let's talk about pace. Because the open door is not an invitation to rush. It's a call to align. Don't confuse movement with progress. Don't let pressure push you faster than grace is guiding you. Just because it's urgent to others doesn't mean it's ordained for you. Walk in rhythm with the Spirit. Slow is smooth. Smooth is strong. And strength in the kingdom is not always loud. It's consistent. This is also a season of pruning, not just planting. Because sometimes when God opens a new door, He closes certain windows. Relationships shift, opportunities dry up, interests fade. That's not failure, that's focus. You can't hold on to every branch and still climb the tree. Let go, not out of bitterness, but out of wisdom. Not everyone who started with you is meant to finish with you, and that's okay. Bless them, release them, and keep climbing. You must also know this. Your assignment will not always make sense to others. It might even scare you. But if God gave it to you, then you already have everything you need inside you to fulfill it. Stop waiting for perfect circumstances or full understanding. Obedience doesn't require clarity. It requires trust. And child, the greatest moves of God begin in moments of uncertainty. Abraham didn't know the destination. Moses didn't feel qualified. David was just delivering bread. Yet each of them walked through a door that changed history, because they were willing to move when God said, "Go." And now I'm saying it to you. Go even if your voice shakes. Go even if you have to walk alone. Go even if it doesn't make sense to your logic. Because the longer you wait for perfect conditions, the more you delay the purpose God has already set in motion. Faith isn't built in comfort. It's forged in motion. And every step you take will be met with strength. Not your own strength, but His. Let's talk preparation. God opened the door, but you must prepare the room. What does that mean? It means clean up your habits, tighten your discipline, prioritize what matters. If He gave you the platform, study your message. If He gave you the team, learn to lead. If He gave you the dream, build the structure to support it. God gives vision, but He expects stewardship. The promised land still requires management. Don't waste the miracle by refusing to mature. And remember this always: just because the door is open doesn't mean resistance won't come. In fact, resistance confirms you're on the right path. The enemy doesn't fight what isn't threatening him. But the good news, he can't close what God has opened. So stand tall, walk forward, and when the doubts rise, and they will, remind yourself whose fingerprints are on the key that unlocked this moment. Child, you've been prepared in private for what's about to be revealed in public. You were hidden so God could heal you. You were delayed so He could develop you. You were rejected so He could redirect you. And now that He's positioned you, you will not be moved unless He moves you. That's authority. And it's yours, not because you earned it, but because He entrusted it. So take one last look at the past, not to mourn it, but to thank it. Every hardship, every loss, every lonely night, it brought you here. It trained you. It trimmed you. It taught you how to hear God when everything else was silent. And now that you hear Him clearly, follow Him fully. Don't get distracted by applause. Don't get discouraged by criticism. Neither define you. What defines you is the yes you gave in the quiet place, the yes that heaven heard, the yes that hell feared, the yes that opened this door. And now that it's open, let your life preach what your lips don't have to say, because you are not who you were when this journey began. You are stronger, wiser, sharper, softer, braver, and God is about to prove that none of it was wasted. And now, beloved, rest. Lay down the weight you've been carrying, the questions, the expectations, the secret fears no one sees but me. For tonight, you don't have to fight. You don't have to figure everything out. You don't have to climb any mountains or solve any riddles. You simply need to be here with me. Because I am not just the God of thunder and fire, of mountains and miracles. I am also the God of quiet hearts and peaceful sleep. I am the stillness that calms your storm, the hush that follows the chaos, the exhale after the long day. You've heard me speak in power, but now I speak in peace. Let your mind drift gently like a leaf on a slow-moving stream. Let every worry melt like snow under warm light. Let your soul remember, you are safe, you are held, you are home. Every lesson you needed to learn today has been learned. Every prayer you whispered has been heard. Every breath you took was a miracle. You made it. You're still standing. And even in the places you feel broken or unfinished, I am still working. Because I never sleep, and I never stop loving you. So tonight, let your sleep be holy. Let your dreams be soft places where I meet you. Let your rest be sacred, not because everything is perfect, but because you trust me. And that trust, that childlike surrender, is the most powerful thing you can offer. In your stillness, I move. In your sleep, I restore. In your silence, I speak deeper truths. So hush now, my child. No more striving, no more proving, no more comparing your path to someone else's. You are on your way, and I am walking every step beside you. My hand is upon you. My spirit is within you. My angels surround you. You are not alone, not for a single heartbeat. Let this be your lullaby. I am with you. I am for you. I have gone before you, and I will never leave you. You are my beloved. And tonight, you are exactly where you're meant to be. Sleep in peace. I've got the rest.